Well, hey everybody, my name is Justin Lester and you're tuned into Made for Mondays. You guys have been kicking it with your boy for all year, and I've been happy to do these different series with all of you. Thank you all so very much for being a part of the Made for Monday crew, where you guys are leaders and change agents that are going to where you are, bringing all of yourself there and making the decision to live. For you, hey, this is another day, another great day, and a day you will conquer because you were made for Monday. We're beginning a brand new series today of people and innovators and thinkers that I believe will bless your heart, bless you where you are. Individuals who are continuing to do amazing work in their communities in light of everything going on in the world. And as we transition back into the world, I believe these individuals will assist you to be all that you know you definitely can be. Today, I'm so excited to welcome one of my best friends. His name is Brian Hendricks. Brian and I have been friends since, Marquette University. As a matter of fact, this is Dwayne Wade signed jersey. Both of us have Dwayne Wade signed jerseys. Well, and the way we got them, thank you, D Wade, because that's a secret him and I are going to take to our grave, how we got these signatures today. Brian and I were managers for Marquette women's basketball team, and as we grew together and grown, Brian is a dad, Brian is a leader, Brian is doing amazing things coaching one of the best women's basketball programs in the state of Wisconsin. And I believe when Brian talks about education and sports and coaching, you are going to be immensely blessed by the pouring in from Brother Brian Hendricks. So take a moment, get ready for this, situate yourself. If you're driving, open your mind up, make sure you got your tag button so you can tag some quotes, because Brian's going to levy so much knowledge onto all of us to ensure that we are made for Mondays. Now, this was a pre-recorded conversation on Zoom, so you know what that means. The audio quality isn't perfect, but it's perfect for you. Let's jump into this. Brian, take it away. We are made for this. Now tell us why. Well, hey everyone, it's Justin here. Welcome to Made for Mondays. I'm so happy to have all you guys with us this morning. Please be sure that as you guys jump into this podcast that you like, you share, you post it, you put it online, whatever it is, especially if it's blessing you to take away as we get to even our points of purpose and affirmation at the end as well. Today, I'm starting a new series with some amazing people from across this country that I just think are really doing amazing work in the fields they're in, but also as we transition from this season of Corona. I called it COVID and Cops, just like everything that's been going on from our world, our thinking, our homes and quarantines. I thought the best ways to do it was to help all of us navigate the spaces you're working in. I believe, once again, you guys hear me say this all the time, this is not the season of following, it's a season of leading. And for some of you who are leaders, this is great for you. For those of you who are followers, this will then hopefully cultivate the skill sets that when you do get positioned in leadership positions, you've gone in there, you're running into it and not hoping and hopping and skipping when you get into it. So today I have one of my best friends and just someone that we've grown. It was amazing when we first met until we graduated from school 6 years later with multiple degrees. And just, we've done a lot of things. We've laughed, we've cried together. We've been in high moments and low moments and just amazing things. And it's amazing how friendship went all the way from 2006 and now we're sitting in 2020. 2020 seems like it's not a year that never ends, but sitting in 2020, and just an amazing man, an awesome person, and just he'll be able to tell you more about him. But you guys help me welcome to Made for Mondays today, Brian Hendricks. Brian Hendricks.
Thank you, Justin.
What's up, man?
Man.
Totally.
It's crazy to think about. We've known each other since 2006 when we were like little freshmen in college trying to make it as radio hosts.
Dude, listen.
For 13 years now, we're actually on a podcast together.
Oh my God, I forgot about radio. Dude, it's just, I've been reflecting on this because I've been hit up about something in Marquette because my sister graduated from there.
Right.
And like, I was sitting there joking. I'm like, Jesus, man, that was like Dominic James. Like,
that was the big three originally.
And like they said, and the thing that made me feel so old was when they said how many years Wesley Matthews been out of school. And I was like, don't do that. Like,
No, don't bring that up. No.
Oh my gosh, man. Brian, tell us a little bit about you. Like, who are you? What do you do? All of that. Like, so do we get a picture of who Brian Hendricks is?
Yeah. So I like to say I'm a guy that doesn't like to be bored. I do a lot of different things and it just keeps me motivated. So I guess my main title is I'm the director of college counseling at an all-girls high school, Divine Savior Holy Angels in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So that is kind of like my normal job, if you will. On top of that, I am also the varsity basketball coach here, going on year 3 as the coach here, but I've been coaching a long time. Even before you and I were managers and GAs with the women's basketball team at Marquette, I've been coaching AAU. So yeah, this is my 3rd year at DSHA as a head basketball coach. On top of that, in the summers, I am a leadership and training consultant for a company called Dynamic Developments, which is owned, operated, and created by my father. So always nice to have a dad that, does something I like to do. So I do training for him in the summers. What else? Those are kind of like the big three. I'm in the process of creating my own podcast, digital web series, future media conglomerate, if you will, with a good buddy of ours, Tim Paul. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah, man, I'm all over the place. But the main things I do, I coach. I'm a counselor, and like I said, a leadership and communication consultant over the summer. That's kind of what takes up most of my time when I'm not being a dad and husband.
I was about to say, man, I was like, where's the day job at? Who's the real boss here?
The real boss is my wonderful wife, Jackie. Next week will be year 6 of marriage.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you. Yeah, we've been together since 2008. So 6 years of marriage, 12 years together. 2 wonderful kids, including a 2.5-year-old and an 8-month-old. So little girl Reese is 2.5, and Brooks is just turned 8 months yesterday, actually.
Jeez, man, that's awesome, man. That's a blessing. I know parenting's a blessing, and to hear just all the things on your plate, man. So with all the things on your plate, and you mentioned leadership consulting, you mentioned college counseling, you mentioned varsity basketball. And I want to get to emotions with that in a second, but just like professionally, how have you navigated this time from like March to now in terms of just keeping who you are and knowing eventually you'd have to do it again, but like not just adapting in COVID, but how have you professionally navigated this time of COVID?
Yeah. So from a professional standpoint, it's just literally trying to take it one day at a time and finding out what's next. So, a great example is, in the college counseling world, so much of what I do and what the students do is meeting face-to-face with either myself or with other admissions counselors, trying to represent the universities. So we're doing a lot of, we can't meet face-to-face, with admissions counselors. So how can we meet? So a lot of it has been, virtual meetings. What does that look like? How do we put on a virtual college fair? I'm doing a lot of research on, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, who's doing it well right now and how can I steal from them? That's my philosophy on coaching too. I'm not smart enough to create something new. Okay. I'm going to steal from people that do it better than me and then perfect it for what my students need. So we're doing a lot of that. We're really using Zoom and Microsoft Teams a lot to meet one-on-one with students. Part of the way I really have done counseling in the past is just really large group counseling. So you always have your one-on-one meetings, but especially in a high school setting, I get most of my contact with the girls when 10, 15, 20 of them just show up in my office in passing period. Wow. Or if I'm just walking down the hallways, Mr. Hendricks got a question, Mr. Hendricks got a question. You're just addressing it as you go. Wow. But we can't do that now. So it is, how else can I reach all these students? Social media has been a big trend that I've, gotten into recently, Facebook and Instagram, trying to just get, big messages out to girls. The biggest one is TikTok. So I know you love that. I actually have a TikTok account for the DSHA College Center. And our very first video has over 100,000 views.
Wow.
I know, which is cool. Now the rest of them, when I'm actually trying to teach the girls something, drops steadily. But, so far this year, I've had girls say, hey, how do I do this? Oh, wait, that was on a TikTok. And so I'm reaching girls I would never have reached before, even just past fasting periods, just by kind of switching the way I'm thinking and seeing what seeing what other people are doing and doing it that way.
Wow.
That's been the biggest piece, I think, professionally. And you could say the same thing with coaching, virtual webinars. The Wisconsin Basketball Coaches Clinic is coming up next week, I believe it is. And I have my whole calendar already set for which coaches I want to hear, Wow. And when it comes to like the leadership consulting, one of the biggest things is we've, for years, the consulting world has been based on interactions, in-person teaching. Yeah. So as soon as COVID hit, I was talking to my dad about what he was doing. He's like, I don't know. All my classes are being canceled. I don't know what to do. And I said, well, let's make it virtual. Let's take your presentation, the best of it, and combine it with what works virtually. So we actually took his 2 main classes and digitalized them or made them virtual this year. And the company we did it for loves it so much. Like, you know what? This might be how we want to do it forever now. Instead of spending this money to fly me to Maine or to fly me out to LA every year, hey, you can reach a larger number of people by doing it virtually. And we just reworked it. So we're still getting the interpersonal connection. It's just a different interpersonal connection.
Wow.
So that's the biggest thing I would say is it's not the same, but you got to figure out how to still make it work.
Yeah, that's real, man. I guess with that too, and this I didn't put this in the original list, but I'm curious because of the spaces you're navigating in emotionally. So that's professional here navigating it, but I'm thinking about high school girls that prayerfully won't get robbed of their basketball season.
Mhm.
And you guys had a lot of success, man, the last couple of years, man.
Yeah. Well, speaking of being robbed, so we were last March, right before Wisconsin canceled all the state tournaments for high school.
Yeah.
We were actually in Green Bay the night before playing in the state semifinal.
Wow.
So we were ready to play. We were literally in the hotel, and we had to wake the girls up and tell them that we're not playing in the semifinal. Season's over.
Wow. Now, so I guess that for me, I'm thinking about, because you're talking about the major times for high school. So 17, 18-year-olds or 16-year-olds going into like the major moments of their lives, and you're working with them as a coach and then also getting them even to like understand things about school. How are you navigating even their emotions, in a very emotional moment about college and not having sports, or hopefully this year having it?
Right. A lot of it, and it just starts with validating that it's okay to be angry, to be upset. I'll use the basketball example. So as soon as we found out, all my assistants and I were like, how do we tell the girls? And at this point, it's all over social media, so they know. Like, how do we tell them that everything we've worked for this entire season, even dating back to last year, when it was my first, or 2 years ago, my first year, everything was built towards this tournament, and now it's gone.
Wow.
And what's nice for us is, me really well. I'm really rooted into my faith. So being at a Catholic school, I can openly speak about that. And that's one of the first things we said was, ladies, tournaments, this sucks. That plain and simple. Like, I'm angry. Whether I agree or disagree, doesn't matter. I'm angry. I'm sad. I'm disappointed. How are you feeling? We got out that. How are you doing? How are you feeling? And then, okay to me is not an answer. Like, I want to dig deeper. I want to know what's going on. And then we came with the idea that we don't understand why the tournament got canceled. We don't understand why COVID is happening. We don't understand, the race issues that are happening.
Yeah.
Some people don't understand that. But if you're a Christian, your belief is it's not what I want or what I understand.
Yeah.
It's what God wants or what God's will is.
Yeah.
And with that being said, my biggest message to girls, whether it's coaching or whether it's, navigating the fact that they can't go visit colleges and that everything is so unsure, is that you have every right to be angry and upset and sad with God's plan.
Yeah.
You do. That's human nature.
Yeah.
But what sets us apart as Christians and as believers is that even though you're angry, you're sad, you're mad, you don't understand, you're annoyed with what God's plan is, his plan eventually, if you put your faith in it, is going to lead to what you should be doing, to better things for you. And I think that's the hardest conversation that I've had, not just with the girls, but internally.
Wow.
It's, I pray that, God, your will be done, your will be done. And as things keep coming, I'm like, I don't like what your will is right now. This is not good for me. This is not fun for me. But you just have to keep that focus that eventually putting your faith in him is going to bring about the right thing.
Yeah.
So that's how our conversations have gone, is a lot of validation and a lot of how does your faith support you in this, even when you don't understand it.
Yeah. I mean, that's so much wisdom. And I hope you guys are hearing this. That's so much wisdom that, like you mentioned, okay is not an answer, and validating your feelings, right? Like we had a conversation with a therapist way back in March, and they said the first thing everybody has to do is grieve. And the issue that we're not doing is grieving that we've lost an entire situation. And until we grieve it, and validate, like you said, these emotions, that we'll never be able to really own this season. And then we'll try to use it as a productivity contest and not just sit in the season. Like, I'm grieving. I lost my March, my April, my May, my June, July. Like, we were planning to go to Napa for anniversary. And so, like, Auntie Rona showed up. You know what I mean? It's just like, it took away everything.
Well, and I think from a leadership perspective, something that hit me hard over the summer was that piece of internalizing it. Like, I had to be so happy and so positive and so good for all the seniors and the rising seniors this summer, or for all the basketball players, or for all the people, I'm teaching over the summer. And you have to fake it almost. And I never took that time to say, wow, this sucks. And, it got to this summer, there were times where I was just miserable because I wasn't able to confront it or face
Wow.
it, or I got away from my meditation because I didn't have time because I was too busy helping. So that self-care piece, I think, on top of it, which has within the last month for me personally, I've gotten back into it, changes everything. Because when I'm healthy and I'm good and I'm in a good mindset, I'm no longer just faking it to everybody else. I'm actually living it, and they can see the difference.
Wow. That was a question I was going to get to, but you kind of already explained it in terms of what you learned about yourself. So with that together, man, like as you transition to the workplace, how are you going to lead them differently as you've learned that about yourself in terms of meditation, self-care being one, confronting things head on early, and then also at the same time knowing where their emotions and heads might be as you transition to the workplace, and the people that are looking up to you. How have you evolved as a leader as you transition back into the workplace?
Yeah. The biggest thing I can say is I got to walk the walk.
Wow.
I've been on a very spiritual wellness journey, I would say, over the last just over a year now. And it's been listening to podcasts, reading articles, just everything health, spiritual wellness, just trying to get better. And a lot of it was when I first started, it was easy. I listened to it, I preached it, and I did it. And then when things got hard, it wasn't easy anymore.
Wow.
I would preach it, but I stopped listening to podcasts about it. I stopped getting my faith. I stopped living it, but the words were still coming out. And there's a difference between me just saying it and me practicing it. And other people can see that. So I think that's the biggest piece for me, getting back into the school year, we're just a month in now with having girls in the building, hybrid model. Basketball open gyms just started last week. And for me, without having true proof of me, eating healthy or, getting into my devotional or meditating every day, there's a difference between when I just speak it and tell the girls, hey, this is what you should do because it's helped me, versus I can actually show you this. And it just comes with a whole new level of energy when you practice it yourself.
Man, you're showing us what made people hate Jesus. He didn't just talk about it; he lived it. He didn't just talk about healing the sick; he touched them, right? And that's an amazing, amazing thing. What suggestion, man, then would you give? And we have a couple of in our church we have some high school athletes. I think I just organically attracted them. But as you talk to high school students, as you talk to people even in school, right? So freshmen, sophomores in college, you have a number of college students. What suggestions would you give to people who are not in the leadership positions that we might be in, but are in those second, third, fourth seats? They're learning more, and while right now, and this too, there's podcast after podcast, movie after movie, lead, be in the first seat. What suggestions would you give to these high school kids and students and future leaders, and followers right now about transitioning well? As you're talking about how you're showing up, bringing your full self, what would you tell them to do in this season as they cultivate being good followers to eventually be good leaders? Because the reason, and this last thing I'll say, the reason we're in the seats we're in right now is we sat under some decent leaders, but we followed them. And we didn't try to be the head coach. We followed them and they became leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. The best thing I can give anybody who isn't in that true leadership position, well, it's gonna be twofold. It is one, most importantly, is that even if you don't have the title, you're still a leader.
Wow.
That is a huge piece of just humanity in general. I think is that I'm blessed to say I'm a director at work. I'm a leadership consultant. I'm a head coach. I have leadership. I mean, you can even look in personal life. I'm a father. I'm a husband. When you have mother, husband, wife, father in your title, that's innately a leadership role. Just because I have that doesn't mean I'm the only one who's supposed to lead. I look at my basketball team and you have captains who are leadership in name and in action, but I expect every single one of my players, whether you start or whether you're 14th and you're leading the bench mob, you need to lead by example. So I think that's the first piece is you got to change your mindset where just because I don't have the title doesn't mean I'm not a leader.
Wow.
You can still be a leader without the title. Wow. And the second piece of that, and I think this is where you and we had some great mentors. And I think what we did that helped us get to where we are is we listened and we learned. Wow. We didn't pretend that we knew everything. And there were probably times when we did, especially back in college, we would think, guess why are we doing this? What's going on with that? But then we would ask questions. I remember having conversations with a ton of the basketball coaches at Marquette of like, hey, we did this against this team. Why did we do that? And then learning from them and asking those questions and realizing that we don't know everything. I mean, even to this day, like I just said, I can't wait to go to this coaching conference next week. It's all virtual, but just to listen and learn Shaka Smart's going to be there. Gino's going to be there. Like these coaches that have done it longer and better than I ever have. And I just want to listen and learn. And the more people can do that, especially in this time, like nowadays, there's so much that you can go out and see and learn and listen from. Like you mentioned, there's podcasts, there's books. One of the things I love to do, and I probably should get back to this, is just reach out to former mentors of mine and just say, hey, what's going on? What are you doing now? How are you doing this? How are you reacting? And then again, taking what people that are mentors to me or have been leaders in title longer than I have, see what they're doing and then start living that in my life every day.
Wow.
But that's the two pieces that, I try and preach to anyone that I'm in contact with, is that, even without the title, you are a leader. And listen and learn, because the more you listen and learn, all of a sudden you're going to know how to react to a situation when you are in that leadership role.
Wow. That's so good. I really hope you guys hear this, because those are essential things that great leaders learn early, right? And you have to learn that early, especially like no matter what season of time we're in, but especially in this moment when, like you said, so much information is available that we have to be able to take it and learn it. And really, and as you mentioned earlier, and it just stuck out to me personally, when you talked about preaching things, and the thing for me, even in preaching, I was preaching to people, and then like they all got taken away. And so it's like I would learn something and it's like nobody's like affirming like this is good. I'm like, am I preaching good stuff? Right. And it was just like it was so difficult. But like you mentioned, I had to get to a place as well where I didn't name it the way you named it. So I love the way you named it, where no, I had to first make sure, man, how is my personal life? How's my personal meditation life? Where am I personally grounding myself on a day in, day out basis, so that I don't require that affirmation, but that it's literally, man, I can just live life and ensure that we're communicating things very well. I mean, the other thing I would ask you, so other people like you that are on the journey, the last question I have for you is, as they're navigating this space, as they're transitioning into work, to other people in positions similar to yours, as you're doing very well. I mean, like you mentioned before, the success you're having with basketball, the success you're having with the piece you're doing with your father in terms of leadership, the success you're having, even DSHA. I mean, those of you who don't know about DSHA, it's an amazing school. Like DSHA is an amazing school, and the success you're having, man, what suggestions would you give then to leaders, like people who are just getting the director title, the leader title, the supervisor title, that before the title goes to their head, what suggestions would you give to them so they stay level-headed? The way that you are staying in like when you could really say like, I'm the head coach at DSHA. Those of you who know DSHA, Brian could go around with a t-shirt saying I'm the head coach at DSHA. Like I'm telling y'all, it's that type of school. What could you say to leaders so that before the title goes to their head when they get it, that they can be great leaders with their title?
How much time do you have? Because I can say a lot. No, the first piece is actually being thankful. Like being thankful for, first and foremost, the people in your life. Like there's no way I could do as much as I'm doing right now if it wasn't for my wife, Jackie. I mean, to me, and most husbands should think this way, but I think she is the most patient, supportive person in the world, because the life of a counselor and high school basketball coach is you have time, but then once November hits, November through March, I'm barely home. And this is, high school. And like you said, we're a very competitive high school. So, more is assumed of me when it comes to scouting and film reporting and practice planning and all that. Not to mention, during that time period, she's at home with 2 kids. She was pregnant last year with a kid and trying to navigate that more or less as a single mom, it seemed like. So just first and foremost, say thank you and be appreciative for those people at home or those friends that support you and really have your back when things get nutty and crazy. Because when you're in a leadership position, things are going to get nutty. Things are going to stress you out. You're going to feel like you're juggling 10 different things at once. You're not going to know how to do it. Know that figure out who those people are. And I hear you say this all the time. You are the sum of the 5 people you meet the most, or you spend the most time with. Find out who those 5 people are. Say thank you in advance for, I know you're going to be here for me, so thank you. So that automatically humbles you. The second piece of it is the same advice I'd give someone who's not in that leadership yet, is listen and learn. Listen and learn. Just because you have that title, again, doesn't mean you know everything. You have to be able and willing to learn from everybody. And that is people who've done it longer than you. That is, maybe you learn something from one of your players. Maybe you have a great point guard who says, coach, this zone offense hasn't worked for the last 3 weeks. Can we try something different? And then you have to get out of your own head, get out of the idea that, well, this is my zone offense. This is what I've run for years. Maybe it's not working anymore. So don't be afraid to take, it's not even criticism, but feedback from people who maybe aren't in that leadership role right now, but maybe one day will be. I think those are the 2 biggest ones. And I can go on for hours about what, and it's not things that I do, it's things that I know I should do. Yeah. And I'm still working on it too. The 2 biggest things, I'll say, just appreciation and thankfulness is huge. Listen and learn again. And then one other thing I'm just going to throw in there is you have to get organized. From a very practical standpoint, you have to be organized as a leader. Most leaders, when you're given that director role, that coach role, whatever position it is, it doesn't just mean, hey, you just show up for practice. No, it means you show up for practice. It means you're dividing up between your coaches, who's watching film, which game films you need to get, who's got the scout this week, who's planning practice, what schemes are you trying to and that's just one thing. Most leaders have 5, 6, 7, 8 things they're juggling. And if you're not organized, it's never going to work. So something I heard from this mental performance coach named Brian Kane, he shares his calendar, and it is the most detail-oriented calendar I've ever seen in my life. It's every hour from 4 a.m. when he wakes up to 8 p.m. when he goes to bed is booked. I am not nearly that organized. But what I know is if I have something, I need to put in my calendar, because if it's not in there, I'm going to forget about it. If there's something I need to do, it goes into my to-do list. So whatever way as a leader you your own organizational style, get organized. And if you don't have an organizational style, do something. If it doesn't work, try something else. If it doesn't work, try something else. Because until you're fully organized, you're not going to be able to give your best to every single thing that you need to do.
I really hope you guys are grabbing a hold of this. And Brian, when you say organization, I look back, I remember, and the reason that's so important, y'all, and it's from one of my own failures, is when I first got to my church, I thought I could do it all. I thought I literally could just do it all. And then I told the story on Sunday, we hit over 200 in attendance. Things were going crazy. I had to start hiring people. And literally the first hire I made, I had to pay good money for a secretary to control my calendar. Because I missed a meeting with people that you don't miss meetings with. And I just missed it. I just literally was I was sitting in my office and I'm getting messages from their admins, where are you? So from a failure of mine, and please take heed to the advice that Brian has. If you don't do that very thing, you got to pay good money like I have to pay now to get somebody to come in, run my calendar, she sends me emails at 6 a.m. This is what you're doing today. These are the emails you need to send, because if not, and that's also me staffing my weaknesses, but it's a necessary thing, because as Brian said, if you're going to get into this position of a leader, so that's where, going back to followers, start now. Organize where you're going to eat lunch, and organize your emails for the day. Even if it's assume your boss is going to text you or email you, assume early, because as Brian says, that organization is what's going to separate you from good to great, because people are going to trust you and trust you and trust you. And then all of a sudden you look up, and then now other people are really going to be trusting you, and then income is tied to it. Brian, this is amazing, man. This is man.
Can I add one more thing in? Because you said something.
Please.
It sparked something. When you said you're hiring someone to run your calendar, that complimented what you do well, right? That's the thing that I don't think leaders understand.
Wow.
You need to hire people that do well what you don't. And surround yourself with great people. And I use my coaching staff, because if you ask me, I have the best coaching staff in the entire state of Wisconsin. And you know me really well. I'm very big picture thinking. I'm looking big picture when it comes to basketball, especially. So if you look at who my 2 main assistants are, they are extremely detail oriented. And that's not just, it happened that way. No. As a leader, I know my weakness is getting the little details of practice down and all this. And that's why I rely heavily on them. So as a leader, like you said, you can't do it yourself. So get good people around you to make your life easier.
That's it. That's it, man. And that's so real. It's a lesson I didn't learn until too late. And now, I mean, things are getting better now, but man, I'm telling y'all now, those of you who are listening to this, that is, and be humble enough, as Brian has said, be humble enough to admit how you think and then who you need to surround yourself with. Because at the end of the day, and I joke in my church about all this, like we can have all the 25 people working, my name is on the sign, right? So when the article comes out, you got the interview. And so it's just like, your name is on it, good and bad. It's a positive thing and negative thing. And so, Brian, man, thank you. I saw something light up on that last question, and I just, your eyes lit up, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was So Brian,
I got this one.
If somebody wanted to contact you, get in contact with you, if there's a young coach out there, man, that just really wanted to see what you're doing or follow alongside or even get connected with you with some of the work that you are doing, how can someone, this is just all for you to plug that to our audience, how can someone get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So email is probably going to be really simple. That's how most people reach out, is just my name, Brian Hendricks 23 at gmail.com. Everyone thinks 23 is for Michael Jordan. It's not. It's for Ryan Sandberg, another Chicago great. So Brian Hendricks 23 at gmail.com's email. I'm also big on social media. So if you want to see what's going on with the basketball team, my random thinkings, some people like that, some people don't. And if you want to see my adorable kids, Twitter and Instagram. I'm really big on Instagram especially, but both those handles are bhendo87. So yeah, Twitter, Instagram, and then email. Those are going to be the three easiest and best ways to kind of reach out to me or kind of follow along to see what's going on in the life that is Hendo's.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for your time. This is
Absolutely.
great.
Thank you for having me. This was a blast.
Oh, definitely, man. No, you guys, please give it up for Brian. And please let us know if you have any questions or comments or anything in our comment section. We'd love to hear from you guys as we continue to do this. And please make sure, if this piques your interest, if this is for you, please reach out to Brian. I know he's a wealth of information, doing amazing work in Wisconsin. And you'll be able to follow along with those beautiful kids of his and the dad musings. There's something about being a dad. I'm gonna throw this in for free. There's this picture that I think Maggie took of us at a Marquette game, right?
Yeah, exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and so it's funny, and I say this because my birthday was a couple weeks ago, and just having a chance to reflect on life. And I remember we sat down, we were talking one day, like, man, what are we gonna do in the future? We both want to be dads, and you were like, man, I'm gonna coach a girls basketball team. We're gonna be great. And I was like, I'm gonna pastor a church, and it's gonna be great. And it was amazing the day that it wasn't like, what is it, 2015 to 2017 was like the greatest. But then it's like, once things hit, it was just like, dude, like this is really happening.
Right. Like we had the conversation of this is what we're going to do.
That's it.
And now we're doing it.
That's it, man. That's it.
I mean, karma or not, but I think there's something to speaking out what you want to do.
That's it, man.
And then don't make excuses. Just find a way to do it.
That's it. And being held. And the thing too with that is accountability. So it's like, man, no, this doesn't line up with what you said you're going to be. Man, why are you pursuing this? Because that doesn't line up. And it's just amazing to look back on it and to know, like, one day we were just randomly sitting there at a basketball game. I think Marquette was like destroying some crap team. And I was like, dude, yeah, like this is what I'm gonna do. This is what I'm gonna do too. All right, man, we'll see what happens. And then here we are in 2020. And
I think if you look at both of our journeys, whenever I got a coaching job or you got a new degree or a pastor's, there was that text. I mean, we could go months without conversing at all.
Yeah, man.
And then you see I get a coaching job, I get that text. Hey, congrats on this. Hey, you finished another, degree, or you get that church. Hey, congrats on it.
Yeah, man.
And just having that person that, 10 years ago, you had this conversation and we know that about each other. So when it happens, you have that celebratory person.
Yeah, man.
It just makes you want to keep going.
And the beautiful thing for me too, man, that makes it different is it was never a competition. And I think that's the thing about healthy relationships. It was never, okay, no, Brian bought a house, I got to do it next week. Or Brian had a kid, I got to get working. Or like, oh man, Brian did this, I got to do this. It was always like, I'm going to celebrate those who celebrate. I'm going to mourn with those who mourn. Because I know, like, if we would have lost someone that was close to us or lost something too, it'd been right there too. And that's the beautiful thing about healthy relationships, where it's just, no, man, we're both and I'm celebrating the fact that it's like, Brian won't tell y'all, but DSHA is a freaking amazing school. Like, he won't say it, and that he's the head coach. Like, the girl who's the rookie of the year, yeah, Brian didn't coach her, but doggone it, like, that's the person he could use as recruiting, right, or whatever it is for what he's. Yeah, no, like, DSHA is an amazing school, and like that was a school we played at Brooks. We were in y'all's in Wisconsin Metro. in Brookfield Central. And so I remember like whenever our girls would play DSHA, that was a huge game at Brook Central, and the same thing playing Marquette men. So Brian said, and that's the thing, you're at an amazing school. So I'll toot your horn for you.
Thank you.
It's just an amazing school. Brian won't say it, but that's humility and leadership. But that's a freaking amazing school. So anyway, Brian, thank you, Made for Monday crew. Thank you guys so much for you guys having an amazing Monday. Remember, make the decision to live, choose to live, because you were made for this. Mondays don't own you. You own Mondays. Now go have an amazing day. I'm going to end the recording.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today for Made for Mondays. I pray today blessed you to be all that God has called you to be, all that you know you can be. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, and I want to mention again, first of all, the month of November, I want to dedicate to you, the listener. If there are questions that you have about leadership, about life, about anything at all, do me a favor. Here's all you have to do. Go to www.jrlester.com and click on Made for Mondays. And on Made for Mondays is a contact form, and simply submit your question for me. What you're able to do is let me know, hey Justin, this is what I'm curious about. This is what I want to know. This is what I want to learn. And my responsibility on Made for Mondays is to ensure that you are the best leader you possibly can be. So go ahead, go to jrlester.com, click that link, let your boy know, I'll holler back at you. Now let's say our affirmation and go on about our week. Repeat after me if you will. Say, I am me. I can be me. No one will stop me from being me. You were made for this. Now go win your Mondays. Mondays won't beat you. God bless you.